We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. PM. Signed, juror 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, come on, one more time. Come on, boy.
Signed by jury 4-person, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
Yeah! Let's go, baby! Yeah! We got justice! This is what we wanted! That's justice we deserve! Yeah!
Jury number 2. Juror number 19. Juror number 27.
I feel like heaven is standing on my shoulder. My brother got justice, and that's very rare. My stomach just dropped. All 3, unbelievable. But I was so happy.
I'm happy. He's accountable for he's accountable for what he did, and justice has been served.
I love him and I miss him so much. But we got justice. And I thank everybody. We're going to keep fighting for everybody's family that's been through the same thing. We're going to stick with them. We're going to keep protesting, and we're going to keep going. I'm not going to let my brother's name die.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the basement. Let's get this thing going here. All right. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to the basement where theology meets the thoughts of life. It's good to be with you here again. We're on live with a special guest, and we'll let y'all know about that a little bit later. But yeah, so every week we go on here at the basement, and check out our website, wrathandgrace.com. Even though it's down right now, we are working on a website, but jot that down. Make sure you let people know that the website is being upgraded, and you're going to have a dope experience with the website. You're going to have a lot more content, and so there's going to be a lot of new things on there. The conferences that we did this past year, and a lot of discussions, a lot of Bible studies, a lot of resources for y'all. So make sure once it goes up, we'll let you know. Look it up on wrathandgrace.com when it's up. Also, we do have a Facebook group page, facebook.com/group/thebasement. And that's our community where we get together and we allow for discussion and even topics to kind of come out of the discussions we have on there. So make sure you join the group page. We do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/thebasement717. Thank you to our Patreon supporters for your support and for what you do. We're doing this really because of, and continue to do it because of your support. So we appreciate that. And shout out to my man, Danny. I am wearing the shirt. I let him know, Danny Phantom. That's my dude. He's a gamer, actually, that attends our church. And so I told him I'll be wearing the shirt tonight. He'll put in the comment section his channel. You can check him out. That's our brother. He's a gamer and he's a believer. That's what we do at our church. We just kind of do all sorts of things and make sure you support the brother out. And so that's all I have. So what's up, Wayne? What's up, Pastor Stan?
All right.
Good.
Yeah, it's great to have Pastor Stan with us tonight. This is the first time that we've had him in the basement officially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
He's jumped on the podcast 2 other times, but it was through Skype. So it's great to have him in person this time.
Indeed.
The episode that really blew up was episode 53, when we were discussing the George Floyd incident last year. Episode 53, I Can't Breathe, ... again.
Yeah.
And I was tempted to name this episode, I still can't breathe. Oh, I like how that beat dropped right there. But but I didn't. And I came up with a better title. Give me justice or give me death. This is episode 87. We came to discuss George Floyd, Derek Chauvin. If I say his name wrong tonight, just excuse me. But I'm just going to keep on calling him Derek Chauvin. Being found guilty on all 3 accounts when it comes to the death of George Floyd, the murder, the whatever you want to go by it tonight. We're okay if you disagree with us, because the topic is bigger than George Floyd or Derek being found guilty. Tonight's topic is about justice. What does God think of justice? What does the Bible say about it? Of course, we know what the world says about justice. We're going to talk about it tonight. So those of you that are out there, feel free to hit that like button, hit the care button. Go ahead and share it on your timeline. Share it with somebody that you know specifically that could benefit from listening to this episode. We have a lot of things to discuss tonight. So shout out to y'all. We see y'all in the comment section. Tiff, my wife, she says logging on Facebook just to see my bros.
What's up, Tiff?
Abner says, Stan, love you, brother.
Hey.
Yeah, shout out to y'all. Those of you that are in the comment section, why don't we do the thing that we love to do the most? Why don't y'all tell us where you are from, where you coming from? Sometimes we get people coming from England, sometimes Australia, sometimes right here in Lancaster, Lancaster, PA, where we are. But we love to hear where you guys are joining in the discussion with us. Yeah. Tonight we're going to talk about it. So let's talk about our first reaction. Did you guys expect to see Derek Chauvin get found guilty on all 3 accounts? The way it went down.
Well, I didn't think he was going to get convicted on all 3. I expected him to get convicted at some level. Probably the 2nd-degree murder.
Okay.
Almost for sure he's going to be 2nd-degree murder.
Okay.
But the other 2, I was, wow. I didn't think he was going to get, I thought one of those he was going to get off. Yeah. And but he didn't.
Yeah.
All 3.
How about you, Los? Were you surprised?
No, and I'm glad he was charged. So it brought a sense of relief because I think it was deserving, and I go back to the image, man, to see what he did, and but I wasn't surprised.
Why weren't you surprised? Why weren't y'all surprised?
I think for me personally, I think he deserved the charges. That's one. But number 2, when you get older, man, you start connecting more dots. So what would have happened if he didn't get charged? That's probably what was on everybody's mind, right? And so sadly, that's something that people have to weigh in making decisions like this that happen to affect the culture, affect the country the way it is. So I think there was a political part to it that people were considering, but I don't think that tainted, in my opinion, the judgment that was passed. I think it was deserving of what he did. So.
If you guys were listening to the very beginning of today's episode, you would have heard the reading of the accounts, the verdict, and then you would hear people in the background cheering and celebrating. That was George Floyd's family. George Floyd's family was surprised. They were caught off guard because they were not 100% sure that he was going to be found guilty. They wanted justice, and they said that this was the first step towards that. Now, of course, they're going to keep on pushing for more situations like this to be talked about, and more justice to be brought about, they mentioned, and make sure there's some people that's even saying, yeah, that's great that, he's found guilty, but what happens now? So
right.
There's people literally holding their breath, they say.
Yeah, we have someone actually from Minneapolis on our comment section, Matt Rasmussen.
Yeah.
Matt, how's it looking out there? Just let us know in the comment section. How's it feel out there? How's it going?
Yeah.
But,
I was a little surprised. Because we don't see it happen too often where somebody gets, like the cop particularly, gets charged like that. Now, some people I'm sure in the comment section would say, oh, that's because it's not televised. That's not fitting the narrative. So, of course, you wouldn't see it being televised and it being reported that a cop got caught and got charged, that way.
Yeah.
This one made news because of all the riots, and Black Lives Matter got involved with it. So, of course, this one's going to be televised. And I don't know if I'm here to argue that tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm here to argue that tonight. I'm just going to tell you that I was surprised. I was surprised because I did not know. I just didn't see this coming. I honestly didn't see this coming. I thought the cop was going to get off. I thought they were,
I think I would have thought that years ago.
Well, no, the reason why I'm saying that is because of, what's his name? George, was he another George?
Zimmerman.
George Zimmerman. Got off and auctioned. I think he auctioned the gun that he killed Trayvon with. Well, whatever. I know that that's not the same situation. I'm just saying.
Right. I felt like Zimmerman's case wasn't quite as clear as Floyd's was. I mean, not only just the fact that it was caught on video, but just the reality that he was there on his neck for so long, and he was not at that point able to resist the arrest.
Yeah.
But so that made me felt like, yeah, I really think he's gonna get it. Zimmerman wasn't quite as clear, but the one thing that bothered me about the verdict was the fact that there was so much pressure. Our legal system says you're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And that's changing.
Yeah.
That's changing, and that is really not a good change.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, pretty much. The new phrase should be, "You're innocent until publicly guilty."
Yeah. In fact, yeah. And once if you're publicly guilty on the spot,
yes,
then why even have a trial?
Yeah, because you know which way it's going to sway.
Well, and every time I think about that, I see those mobs in the 1920s grabbing black men and hanging them from trees. And there's no legal apparatus to stop that because the mob said he deserves to be hung. We don't even know if he even whistled at this, let's just say it, white girl.
Yeah.
They even think that he did. He's going up on a tree.
And
there's
nothing
situation to stop it. Yeah. So, frankly, I'm old enough to remember our ancestors marching that a true just system would start handling these situations instead of this mob rule. We need to be thinking about, do we really like the trend that's going on?
Yeah, I'm reading Voddie's book Fault Lines right now. And am I jumping too far ahead?
No, I didn't know you were going to go there.
That could get scary.
Oh man, go ahead, brother.
I actually enjoyed the book. I agree a lot with Voddie in the book, actually. But one of the things he talked about in there is what does the black pulpit look like in this day and age? He talked about how black preachers would always hold account the people, their own people, as far as personal responsibility,
right,
taking
instead
ownership.
Of being the victim.
Right. There wasn't this victim mentality. There was we need to own up to our own community, and they would. He was pointing out sermons that were preached and this call for black people or just people of color in general to, this is our community, we can do things. And now he kind of pointed out how the culture doesn't allow for that anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't know if I
would agree with that part. I don't know what else he said, but I'm saying this much is that a lot of times, at least what's put out there and goes viral is a black preacher telling his congregation, almost pushing them to be more of victims rather than to hold themselves in the community accountable. How many black preachers are going to be preaching about the little girl that was just killed? Young girl, I think she was 8 years old or something like that.
Hey,
Like within the last 2 days, you know what I'm talking about?
No, not that particular one.
Okay, but yeah, the little girl that was killed. This isn't by the police. This was.
Oh yeah.
We know what it is. That's the streets.
Yeah.
So how many preachers today are still talking about how the streets need to change? And
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's pointing out the fact that the culture doesn't allow for that anymore.
If Malcolm X was today, I'm sorry if I keep on jumping ahead or anything. If Malcolm X was here today saying what he said before, he would be canceled in a minute because he was holding black people accountable for what we did. He said white people can't even help us until we learn to help ourselves. The things he was saying was radical.
They were radical. I remember now because it was couched and by any means necessary.
Yes.
People would like go with it. Okay, but at the time, people still thought that we as black people, for instance, they used to tell people in my generation, "You got to do better than them." You said that today, you'd get not only canceled, you might get bombed.
So even in church, Stan, you would agree that's the case, like as far as like the condition of the pulpit right now in this day and age, like is that like is that the case, I guess, is what I'm saying in the church?
I like as Wayne said, on that particular point, because I haven't read the book, but on that particular point, I would say, we, because, and forgive me if I'm getting ahead here.
No, we're jumping all over the place today. Yeah. And those of you in the comment section, feel free to keep on commenting. We're going to get to y'all in a minute.
But unfortunately, coming at it from the victim perspective is actually a power move now. You actually are able to assert power and gain resources through using this whole victim thing. Now, I know maybe people out there don't agree with it. I honestly think that that's where the power is today. And unfortunately, it's based on this notion of what I call white contingency, that our progress as a people is contingent upon what white folks either do or what white folks feel. Now, admittedly, back in the day, we had what we call, Carl Ellis calls the and for those of you who don't know, Carl Ellis is a black theologian, an apologist. He's out of Tennessee. He's with my particular denomination.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah. He says that we have what we call the ambassadorial burden. And the ambassadorial burden was we've got to look before white people like we are civilized, like we are moral, like we are decent, like we can do this thing. And if we do that, then they'll accept us. That's not the best motivation. Okay, we better, and certainly when the Black consciousness movement came in the late 60s, with Black is Beautiful, we began to say, hey, we can be decent people, we can be civilized because we're people of value. Black is beautiful. So let's do our thing. Let's do this thing right. But we had a set of values back then that supported the idea of taking responsibility.
Right.
And leading and building an uplift and then building our people.
You know, when I bring that up,
lost that.
When I bring that up right there, the accountability that we should have in our neighborhoods and our communities, black people, a lot of times they will get upset.
Oh yeah.
It's similar to whenever you bring up when someone brings up the cops killing blacks, and then you bring up, Black Lives Matter, that's true, but what about Black lives in the womb? Do they matter too? They get mad whenever you bring up all the black babies that have been aborted, and they say that's something different.
Yeah.
So then when you bring up, we got to hold ourselves accountable, because don't you think what is going on in our neighborhoods, it's happening at a greater rate than what's happening with the cops killing us, supposedly, right?
It is.
And you bring that up and they say, the reason why we do that to each other is because of the racism, the systemic racism that's already there.
Yes.
And so they say that's the reason why we hate each other. That's the reason why we commit violence against each other, is because of things that have been done to us, and therefore we've just been conditioned to be like that towards each other.
Yes, that is this this idea of what's being done to us is what causes us
Mm-hmm.
to be as we are. So like you said, you say in our neighborhood, take responsibility. I've seen speakers, literally,
Mm-hmm.
when somebody would bring that up, just knock it right off.
Right.
One, because, hey, wait, now, if you start saying that, that's like showing our dirty laundry, which we hate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also diminishing the power that we can gain
Right.
from saying, hey, we're a victim, we're oppressed,
Mm-hmm.
this is wrong, we need you people to step up and make the changes you need to make in order for us
Right.
to make. You know, this idea of our oppression defines our capacity to move forward.
Yes.
Goes back to this idea of white contingency. Our progress is contingent upon what white people do.
Mm.
You notice in scripture that at no point was what the Egyptians do would be that what Israel, how Israel would build a nation was contingent on anybody else, including the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God literally pulled them out into the wilderness
Yeah.
and then into the land.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time they got to the land, they were prepared to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they had a slave mentality when they came out,
Yeah.
but that's what the wilderness was about, the cleansing.
Mm.
So that when they came to the land, they were ready.
Mm.
They were ready. And unfortunately, a lot of those people who came out of Egypt were not prepared to take the land, and they stayed out in the wilderness.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't realize that, and I've heard so-called black conservatives say there is no historical record about a people who rose and who built life by putting the responsibility for that on somebody else. No historical record for that.
They always flourished and they grew and they matured after they realized
Yeah. And
it starts with us.
it starts with us. Hey, the civil rights movement, where did it start? It started with us.
Mm.
Why can't we take that right out of our own historical playbook?
Let's take that point right there. What do you mean by it started with us?
The segregationists
Yes.
had no plans to dismantle the Jim Crow system. None. The Jim Crow system was working fine.
Mm-hmm.
You stay in your place, we stay in ours, you do what you're supposed to do, we'll do what we're supposed to do, we'll be fine. It was black people who realized this can't go on any longer. And people like that, going all the way back to A. Philip Randolph
Yeah.
in the late 40s, and some of those early pioneers that just got out there and did stuff. And white people got behind him, like Jackie Robinson and his coach, whose name escapes me right now. But they led the way. They said, we have to do this. And no, we're talking grandmoms and aunts and uncles. You know, we're not just talking about the leaders. The people got behind this. And they said, we will not put up with this any longer. The leader said, this is the plan, we have to do it. And they went after it. And they dismantled what white segregationists even fought to keep in place. They took responsibility. You know. Now what happened, of course, now and well, I'll stop right there. Yeah.
Well, okay, let me ask this. As we're just dealing with all of this, where does social justice play into these type of topics right here? Because you have people all over the place on what justice is and what it isn't. This is biblical justice. No, that's ungodly justice. I even heard a term earlier. I won't repeat it right now, but people are all over the place with their views on justice. And of course, society is going to view justice in whatever way. But how can we as Christians, what is the right way to view justice? How does God view justice? How does the Bible talk about justice?
Now, I'm going to put this as a caveat, because not even in the Christian community is there agreement.
No, not
about
at all.
what justice is.
Yeah, I was
Not
just
at all.
thinking that,
Justice
yeah.
is literally in the eye of the beholder at this point.
Yes.
Why is that? We don't have a theology of justice.
A lot of conservatives won't talk about justice.
Right.
It's taboo.
Yeah.
And then the liberals, it seems like they talk about it all the time and they overemphasize what justice is.
Yes. The conservatives want to truncate the gospel to salvation.
Just preach the gospel.
Just preach the gospel. Spirituality of the church going back into the 19th century. But the liberals, they want to focus so much on social justice that the gospel starts to morph into a pursuit of justice down here. And some of that is a reaction to the conservatives.
Yeah.
They asked for it.
Yeah.
But that's not, when you walk with God, you're not just bouncing back and forth because of what somebody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to come and ground yourself in what Scripture has to say about the particular issue, and in this case, justice. Not simply trying to be a foil to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so both sides wind up truncating or polluting the gospel.
Yeah.
And it gets lost.
Both are watering down.
Yeah, both are. Well, one is just cutting out this whole aspect of justice just disappears. And the other side
is adding to it.
is shifting it.
Okay.
It's reconfiguring the gospel.
Right.
To something else. It is a proverbial different gospel when they get done with it.
I agree.
That's the sad part.
I think that's exactly what we're seeing today in many of these discussions that are being had.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of different conversations last year where we were visiting churches and they would ask us situations, things to talk on situations that were happening.
Yeah.
Racial reconciliation, racial tensions.
They were asking, what can we do?
Yeah, what can we do? How can we help? I think some of it also was virtue signaling.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah.
These people are virtue signaling because they need redemption.
Do you think white guilt? How much does white guilt play into this?
Are you kidding?
White guilt out those of you are out there, they feel guilty of being white because there's some idea that they hold power and control or some type of advantage over the blacks and people of color, so they feel like they have to repent of their whiteness.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Now, back, the original.
Wait, what do you mean? Yes, they do. Because somebody might hear that and go, "Wait, what do you mean by that?"
But let me
Okay.
walk my way into it.
Okay.
The original pricking of the conscience, 65, 66, 67, was when America finally realized we have sinned against black people. Wow, that's awful. We repent of that.
Okay.
They saw the hoses, the nightsticks, and the dogs.
Yes.
They saw children being hauled away by the police, and the conscience was pricked.
Yeah.
This can't go on.
Yeah.
So that released this power, this social, for lack of a better word, power for change.
Okay.
Now, at the time, the issue was, okay, we're not going to oppress anymore. We're going to say we're not going to oppress anymore, and in fact, we're going to try to help to turn things around.
Affirmative action.
The Great Society.
Yeah.
And all that went into it, compensation.
Yes.
Compensatory legislation, affirmative action, funds.
Right.
You name it. But what has happened is we've reached a point in this where we're not just interested in white people saying, I acted wrong to you. Okay? Now, you as a person are wrong. You as a white person are wrong.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether you were racist or not racist.
Right.
Whether you were that freedom rider from the North that had black friends.
Yeah.
And you went down south and you got beat up because you wanted to help black people out. But nobody's pointing fingers at you saying you're a racist too, because you were demonstrating that you weren't because of your actions. Now it's a question of well, who you are. Right. You are white, therefore you are racist. And that's what I meant by what I just said.
Yes.
See, and that's the change.
Yeah.
Now, what does it take for a white person to finally not be racist? Not be white?
What about the white people that say today, that wasn't me. I didn't do those things.
No, that's not good enough anymore.
Right.
If you
No.
could put your mic up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Is that better?
Good. Yep.
That's not good enough.
Right.
You have to admit, that even if you personally did not do racist things,
Right.
you have benefited from,
Yeah.
and ergo a part of a racist system.
Right.
So therefore, you're caught. You're caught.
I think we see some reverse. Oppression going on here. What I mean by that is certain blacks feeling that they have been oppressed so long. Now it's time to oppress the whites.
You betcha.
And now it's like, yo, you're white and you're a guy. Oh, that's double.
But
And
if
I
you
would-
think Black Hebrew Israelite,
Yeah.
that's in their theology.
Yes.
They believe that I forgot what they call the white man, but that they're
Esau.
Yeah, they're gonna have a time of suffering.
The
like we
Edomites.
suffer. The Edomites, exactly, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's playing into that whole mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I bring all of it. We're talking about all of this stuff because we're talking about justice here. And some people believe that maybe it's time to shift the tables a little bit. Maybe it's time to turn it around. Maybe it's time for black people to be on top. And the oppressors, the colonizers, maybe it's time for them to be lower than us.
Right. You know,
I've talked to many people like that
Yeah.
actually believe that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But see, this is where the gospel comes in, right here. This is one of the places where the gospel comes in.
Yes.
Do you realize that God said in his word, Old and New Testament, vengeance is mine, I will repay.
Here we go.
Why do you think he said that? Because we are ontologically disqualified from executing vengeance. Not only are we disqualified for executing personal vengeance for one individual to another, we are also unqualified for executing sociological vengeance. We are just, why? We are sinners at the core. Come on.
Yeah.
How is it possible? Are we going to exercise vengeance with justice?
So should we not want justice on earth then?
We want justice.
Okay.
Yes. But we have to allow God to execute that justice his way.
So we got to wait until God does it. Or does he? I'm asking you this because these are questions that really are happening right now. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so do we got to wait until we get to heaven to get justice?
I
Or
think it's
does God use
Yeah.
authorities? Does he use the system
Right.
that's in place?
I think that. So when I see the cry out for justice now, it's almost like people do have this, because it talks about not avenging ourselves,
Yes.
and it feels like justice is more revenge, or it's vengeful, or it's out of a heart of of bitterness, of anger, of So I don't know. A lot of the people that I see, their posture, even some comments I read today, some people that I love, but they're so angry. They're cursing. They're coming at people. They're, they hate all white people. And, I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but then they call themselves Christian,
Yeah.
and what concerns me is the posture of their hearts. And I think, so yeah, there is a sense that we need to leave it up to God's wrath at some point, because we're not going to see justice like it's supposed to be executed.
But what?
You know what I mean?
What about whenever? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is it doesn't mean we shouldn't want justice, though. If there's a wrong done, then that wrong should be dealt with. You know what I'm saying? But if it doesn't happen, we got to be careful with being entitled, or, you know what I mean?
Okay, this is my thing.
We got to be careful with that. That's
What
all I'm
about
saying.
the injustice of the government coming and taking guns from people?
Oh, I think it's wrong.
But there's many Christians out there that say, you try to come and take my gun, you're getting popped. I'm shooting you.
Yeah.
I wish you would try to come up on my land and take my gun from me. So why is it okay then?
Oh, I never said it was
Not
okay,
you,
right.
but I'm saying when we're having these conversations.
Well, see, there's, I don't know if this is the time to say this, but there are two dimensions to justice.
Mm-hmm.
One that we can handle and one that we can't.
Okay.
There is a and I haven't figured out a term for it yet. But one of them is a specific justice. One author calls it traditional justice.
Okay.
Let me read Leviticus 19 here for a second. Hold on. You shall, wait a minute. Now I know I had this in my notes, and I know I'm going to find it in a minute.
Crystal asked a question. She says,
Okay.
so how do we judge righteously?
Wait a minute. That's exactly what I'm about to get at.
Crystal with the K, what's up?
Yep.
I'm going to put it up on the highlight here.
That's a good question. I think we're going to get into that area right about
Yeah,
now.
Right about now, yeah.
So how
As soon
do
as I
we
find
judge
it,
righteously?
Okay, Leviticus 19. Let me start the 9th verse and work my way down. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your fields right up to its edge. Neither shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. Read it from ESV. And you shall not strip your vineyards bare, neither shall you gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. You shall not steal. You shall not deal falsely. You shall not lie to one another. You shall not swear by my name falsely, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of a hired worker shall not remain with you all night until the morning. You shall not curse to death or be a stumbling block before the blind, but you shall fear the Lord your God. I am the Lord. You shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great. But in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. Now, you begin to see biblical justice is impartial. It doesn't have partiality to the poor, nor does it defer to the great. Along with all, you see here a picture of what justice looks like. We're not going to do wrong as individuals, and that's the rule for all of us. So collectively, these are the things we are going to do.
Right.
This is the kind of justice that one author called traditional justice. Now, this other kind of justice is called cosmic justice. Now, cosmic justice is you're trying to do more than just maintain this level. Okay? This is where vengeance comes in. We've had all this stuff done to us, and so we're going to execute this sort of cosmic vengeance against what's been done to our people.
Almost trying to right all of the wrongs that have been done.
You're catching it. When you start trying to right all the wrongs that have been done, let me use that phrase. One, you have to be holy and pure to do that.
Right.
And that's only God. And secondly, we don't have all the information. God's omniscient. He knows how to set set right what's wrong. So getting back to your question, this is the level of justice that we can handle in this life. And we can pursue that. Cosmic justice, yeah, we do have to wait until the day of judgment. And we don't like that. We want a just world now. We can't have it. One, because the world is fallen, and God has chosen not to bring Eden back to us. We are cast out of Eden, and we ain't going back. But when Jesus comes, now all of the rights and the wrongs will be set right.
So we wait. We groan.
We groan. That's part of the groaning. That for every slave that was out there in that field in 1840, he's groaning for that day of justice.
Yeah.
And it's coming. But only Jesus is qualified to execute it.
I agree. That's tough though.
It is tough.
That's tough.
Yeah.
When you see scriptures like Micah 6:8 that says, he has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God.
This is what he was talking about.
Right there.
Right there.
Right there.
That's what he's talking about. I got a passage here in Jeremiah, same kind of thing. That's what he's talking about.
Do you think part of it is right here, Isaiah 1:17? Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and please the widow's cause.
There it is.
There we go.
There
Right?
it is.
Give justice to the weak and the fatherless.
Yes.
Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute.
And you're doing that from the angle of impartiality and not deferring to the great.
So
Now, that's not the same thing as trying to take all the poor
right.
and make them equal with all the rich.
Okay.
When you start trying to...
Which is being preached out there right now.
It is.
Yeah.
You
Jesus
know what
said
happens?
the poor will always be with you.
And he said that because he knew that until he came,
Yes.
that was always going to be the case.
Right.
Once you start trying to do this global sort of switcheroo thing, you're not dealing with people anymore. You're dealing with abstractions.
I got a good question, Stan, for you. It's actually from Lynette, my wife. She says, but Papa Stan, how do we do this kind of justice? Not cosmic. Now, what does it look like?
How do we do this kind of justice now?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Yeah.
As we groan, as we wait.
In other words, how do we do the justice that we can do
Yes.
Yes.
in the midst of the kind of environment that we have?
That's really a big question, because
is.
that's what we've been asked.
Yes.
That's what a lot of churches are asking.
Yes.
A lot of churches are afraid of that question
Yes.
because of how divided congregations are on this issue.
Yes.
How does a church, and I'm even asking for us, I have some ideas and I can share that later, but how does a church faithfully deal with issues of injustices in a way that it doesn't lose itself, or in a way that's biblical, in a way that's healthy for a church?
Or maybe another way to ask that is, how do we as a church speak with a proper prophetic voice?
See, you just said a word that is very taboo.
Yeah, I
You
know.
just said prophetic.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but people should know what he
No,
means
no.
by that.
I
Yeah.
love it.
No.
Go ahead, go for it.
How do we speak with a prophetic voice and speak at this level of justice?
Right.
See, we have people who want to speak at with a prophetic voice at the cosmic justice level. But what about speaking that prophetic voice at this level? One of them is, let's just use an example. Let's go back to talk about some white. So if you know some white person who is flagellating themselves, trying to figure out at what point am I finally free of this guilt? What do you do with a person who's carrying guilt as a body of Christ? What does Jesus tell us to do with guilt? Are we supposed to carry our guilt, or are we supposed to bring it to him and be set free from our guilt? Can we, as a church in this environment, begin to set white people free from the wrong kind of guilt? Remember, when we were black, we were told that we were intrinsically inferior because of our skin.
Yes. Here we go. I see where
We
you're going.
carried that.
Yes.
We passed that down from when I had a 75-year-old man ask me when I was your age, Wayne, look me in the eye and say, we got this boot in us. We got this boot in us. We don't know nothing. We don't know what to do with that. What was he telling me? He had imbibed this understanding that this was intrinsically inferior. And God, by his grace, has begun to set us free from believing that. Now we're going to take that same perspective and put it back on white folks? Really? We already know what that will do to you after generations of that. We already know what will happen. As a prophetic voice, we say, no, we're not going to go that way. No.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of whenever God would tell his people, the Israelites, he would say, treat the sojourner, treat the stranger among you with kindness and mercy, because you know what it's like to be a sojourner and a stranger in the land. You know what it's like to feel the oppression and to see the lack of mercy and justice given to you because of your current condition.
Preach.
That's what it reminds. And so we have to know, if we know what it's like to be hated for our skin, why would we turn around and do it to other people?
Did not the word of God say, and the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself? You just said it sociologically. There's an individual, there's a sociological. That's it.
Right.
You said it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's Why is that so hard?
Why is it so hard?
Why is it so hard? You know, that what you guys just unpacked. Like, why do people in the church find it so hard to accept that?
Ask Jonah.
Ask Peter.
You know, because that really is, you know, that's the truth. That's what we need. But it just seems like there's a lot of pushback on that right now.
Well, there is.
You know?
Because, again, power. Our day, it's our turn. You've heard that phrase. It's our time. You know, it's our turn now. No, it's not.
I've said it before. Imagine if someone would walk around and just say, white is beautiful. We know what that's like. We know what that's like to live in a society where white is beautiful.
Yeah.
So why would we turn around and say black is beautiful as if that's the answer to these things? And people say, well, it's bringing the black person up and evening out the scales. And I don't know if it's doing that. I think whenever you are bringing one people up by bringing another one down, I don't think that's evening it at all.
See, here's where the historical part comes in. Because when we first start saying black is beautiful, what we were really saying was, for years, y'all have said we were ugly. We were evil.
Yes.
You know, black was evil. Black was ugly. Black was, you know.
So this is the counter. Black is beautiful is the counter.
At the time, it was the counter. In fact, it wasn't so much the counter as it was a correction. See, there's a difference between countering and correcting.
Yes.
We are correcting y'all out there to let you know that no, in fact, the image of God is in us and we are beautiful, just like you are. We are starting to leave out just like you are, and just simply say black is beautiful. Now, Carl Ellis calls that ontological blackness. Blackness is everything.
Yes.
You know, and he has a whole big thing on that. But at one point it was a correction. Now it has become a counter. You're right. You're exactly right.
So why is social justice talk in the church? And let's just talk about in conservative circles, because that's where we're in. We're not in the liberal circles. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
We're not. We're in the conservative circles. So we deal with this more often. Why is it such a taboo topic to talk about in the church? And can we start talking about these things without being in error? Like, can we? We
have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to. How? Because there's people that say, don't worry about that, just preach the gospel.
Could it be because we're finding congregations being more intentional in being multicultural? You know what I'm saying? Because it feels like if you have like an all-white, predominantly white church, a discussion on justice probably won't be as sophisticated as a multicultural church.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to think.
Right,
here.
right. Are there going to be
the tensions felt like, you know, for me, in my experience, I've seen the tension happen when there was clashing happening in a congregation about a topic.
Well, this is happening in our comment section today.
You know,
the fact that we're talking about this, there's some that are on one side and some on the other, and it's like, can we talk about this on the podcast?
I think now that you know, in the church at least, I could be wrong, but I think in the church now that people of color kind of like have a platform now to be able to have these discussions with white evangelicals. Now discussions are happening that couldn't happen 40 years ago, I guess.
That's true.
At a level that of quality, I think, where there's some respect and some like understanding that, hey, Galatians 3:28, you know what the Bible says now that, so I've seen it happen more in multicultural settings than in a setting where it's either all black, all white. Like, I think the clashing happens when you have a multicultural church, and that's why it's, I think, a hot button topic, I think. Because now it almost feels like the church has to deal with it now.
Do you feel like there's certain tokens in conservative circles that people go to? If I bring up racial topic, is there a name that usually comes up first?
Yeah,
in our
people blame
circles?
Vody for that.
How about when we talk about politics? Does Candace Owens might come up?
Yeah, they do that, right? But here's the dope thing about even though they do that, I'm not saying because Vody's his own man. I'm reading the book and I'm seeing that he's his own man, so I respect that. What I like right now is that there's such a diversity in people of color right now about issues. Like, we're not all in agreement either.
No, blacks are not a monolith. People of color are not.
But people think that.
No,
a person like Vody, who has a different opinion on things, or even Candace Owens. I don't like the way she comes off. I think she's, at times very foul with some things she says. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty dope to see that there's a diversity of opinions, that we're not all saying the same thing. I think there's that friction, that tension is healthy, I think it's healthy.
It is. If
it's dangerous, but it's
healthy, but it is dangerous. There's a couple of charts I have that I can't show on that. One shows Kevin DeYoung trying to figure out, and he did a chart of 4 different perspectives, and they capture, he calls them contrite, compassionate, careful, and courageous. And in doing that, he's trying to, then he goes and takes these groups and tries to point to what their perspectives are on various things like critical race theory, systemic racism.
What's that called, Stan? I could look it up.
Oh shoot, something like, cause see, I put it in a PowerPoint slide, but okay. it's in why is the Reformed Church have? Oh man, I can't think of the time.
Just type in that. Why does the Reformed Church Kevin DeYoung?
Yeah,
that's probably it.
That'd probably get you there.
But Lynette says we must be about it and not talk about social justice, holding firmly to the gospel.
Hold on, sister.
That's how we in our conservative circles talk justice.
Yeah, and another black brother in the PCA is actually came with a chart of 7 black Christians' approaches to white spaces, and that's for another discussion. But it's interesting how he was nuanced what Kevin DeYoung did. So the diversity is good, but it takes, when you have that kind of diversity, it takes a long time before we finally begin to understand where we should stand. Think about Christology. Think about all the different types of understanding about Christology at one point. His nature is mixed. It's 2 separate natures. I mean, all kinds of stuff people said. Till finally they came to what we need to understand about the nature of Christ. And then all that fluctuation came to an end. That's where we need to get in terms of justice. Unfortunately, it does take time for that to happen. And during that time, to be able to filter out what doesn't make scriptural sense, where is our hermeneutic whacked? Because it's not really shaped by scripture. It's shaped by whatever culture, attitudes, or some particular perspective.
Is it the contrite, compassionate, careful, and courageous?
There you go.
Yeah, throw that on the screen. While he's throwing that on the screen, you guys can check that. Those of you that are watching this, I will bring up something personal, something that we deal with in our church is people coming forward and saying, "Can we talk about social? Can we talk about justice? Can we talk about racial tensions as much as we talk about abortion?"
We should.
And the question is, because we work with an organization in that is involved with stopping abortions and even helping mothers that don't want to have abortions, helping them to support these babies, support the rest of their family, not just the baby, but if this mother already has kids, what can we do to help this family? It's called Love Life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the organization we work with. But are there any credible justice, racial tension organizations we can work with? Because we know we can't stand with Black Lives Matter. We know that.
Well, even just getting at that specific point, what is really... See, here's one of the problems that we could learn from the Great Society if we're watching. See, this isn't the first time around for this. We just act like it is.
Right. Right.
Okay, what would impact our community? Now, here's where it gets... See, we want to impact the community in huge, broad, global ways. Okay. We would love, for instance, and let me just use an example. The projects that were built 50s, 60s, 70s. The projects idea was we're going to bring safe, decent, and affordable housing to the inner cities. We're going to rip out those ghettos. And all of that is going to result in these beautiful communities that flourish. And everybody's going to keep, the grass is going to be green and the fences are going to be up, et cetera, et cetera. And, if you're a minority at all, I don't care if you're Black, Spanish, or what, you know what happened to the projects. Okay?
Yeah.
So the question then becomes for the church. Now, the other side of that, okay, is that individual church that develops an outreach to single parent female households. And, or something like Jeffrey Canada did in the Harlem zones.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So he's in there and he's starting with these kids when they're messing with each other. And then working with them all the way through till they finally actually go to college. I mean, he's teaching these kids how to raise their families before the kids are even born. What's the problem there? Scale. Scale. It's not the big thing, but it's making a difference. But it's only making a difference with a handful.
Right.
But it is making a difference. Now, Black Lives Matter is trying to take the broad scope idea. We'll burn down half the country, okay, and all these people start throwing money at it, and everything will just transform.
Right.
That's what the Great Society was all about. Check the record. We wouldn't be where we are now if that worked. But we are capable as a church to see what specifically can we do to make a difference.
Each individual, each family, each block, like you're talking about going
out and, okay, we recognize that we have a huge education gap. Screaming at the government about more money is not going to make the difference. But getting these kids to sit down, as my mother used to say, sit down, shut up, and learn, and helping the families create environments so these kids can learn. That's making a difference in that life. And you're dealing with whatever you have to deal with to do that. Now, man, you're not going to reach a whole town, but you're going to impact some lives. Now, we don't like that because we want the bigger scale, and that is a problem. That's where we wish God would do a revival.
I was just going to say, we talk about this a lot in the basement where it's like the inside-outside theory, right? I'm going to coin it one day. It's the inside-outside theory. Yeah. If we change these things within our churches, it's going to impact the outside community. If we're really being the local church, we're going to impact our communities. Yes. And our communities are going to change. Yes. And that's how you bring change if all of the local churches are doing what they need to. How many churches are there in Lancaster? Yeah. I don't know. About as many churches as barbershops. And there's a lot of barbershops here.
One of our challenges now as a church is we don't have the influence we once had in our communities.
That's the truth.
Why? How do we get that back?
I know. And I think, now Carl Ellis thinks that if we as churches begin to start dealing with core cultural concerns biblically rather than sociologically, we may see something change.
Yeah.
According to his history, specifically the black church between 1870 and 1910 grew exponentially because theologically they were dealing with those issues, and then it stopped. And he's got a bunch of reasons why it stopped and so forth, but it stopped. So
Freedom at Last was a really good book by Carl Ellis.
So you move forward to our day. That is just one of the reasons why, aside from all the secularity and, and the therapeutic and all the rest of it. But this is where we would have to trust the Lord. If we as churches would faithfully not only preach the gospel and execute justice, do the Micah thing within our sphere of capacity, and everybody did that, would we not be able then to trust that God would cause those efforts to begin to impact our community? I don't have a master plan.
No,
you follow me? But I'm looking at this. I'm looking at these, like you guys talked about, these preachers getting up preaching what the world is saying.
Yeah.
There's no difference between Al Sharpton and Joe Blow on the street corner. And is what Al Sharpton doing transforming our community? Then why are we repeating it?
No.
Why are we parroting these people are saying?
But the local church being the local church. You said revival.
Yeah.
Someone in the comment section, Crystal, she said, what is revival? What I know revival to be is wild, where I come from. Wild revival.
Yeah.
Get up.
I know.
Don't you be sitting down.
I wonder if revival is even the right word. Maybe it's another reformation. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
But to revive something is obviously to bring it back to life.
Yes.
Going back to what we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's what revival usually does.
Life to a dying
It's a purifying
there you go.
that God does.
Yes.
Bringing us back to our roots, to who we are. I think we're going to have to make some hard decisions. I'm thinking about it even with us going to the neighborhood we're going to. I mean, we got to be okay with some stereotypes, I think. When we talk about housing, when we talk about dealing with families that need aid and things like that, I can see a lot of people on our camp, the Reform camp, be concerned about that.
Right.
Sadly,
Sadly is right.
As if good works are a bad thing. Like we weren't saved for good works.
Yeah, they label that social justice, and it's like, no, this is what we're supposed to do as the church.
Yes.
But
see, that's the thing. We have to begin to help these white, if I can say it, these white space churches understand the difference between this yak that's going on in the world and the justice that is in fact a part of what the church is to do.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus said it. Are you feeding the hungry? Are you clothing the naked?
Right.
Are you visiting those that are in prison and are sick?
And if not, depart from me. I never knew you.
I'm gone.
Right.
I never knew you.
Right.
And if you want to argue with that passage, go to 1 John. Do not meet a person in need and say, go and be warm and be comforted. He said, how dare you? You know, you love indeed, not just in word.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. There was for instance, in Proverbs 31, 8-9, this one convicted me. It said, open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. Like, open your mouth.
yes,
Say something.
yes.
That sounds like justice in society.
You know what I'm saying? So, like,
Sounds like social justice.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, again, the difference between social justice is real. Cosmic justice is what we need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got to know the difference.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
a lot of times our white brothers don't know that difference. They
Right.
lump it one way or the other. No. You can't do that.
yeah.
But, you know, when you see, I hope I'm not talking too much, but you see,
No.
you see so many scriptures yelling about that. You know, Isaiah 54 being one of the classics. But don't give me all these sacrifices and you're not doing anything out there to deal with, you know, the poor and the hungry and the sick.
Right.
You know, so it to me, scripture shows us that this is a problem with the people of God.
Yeah, Proverbs 21:3 also says, to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice.
There it is.
You know, it really goes back to, like, don't take your offerings to the Lord. Get with your brother first.
Right.
There it is.
But God had this, you know, concern for his church to always have, you know, a concern for others and for
Yes.
each other.
Yes.
You know, how can we go to God in prayer or, you know, give sacrifices if we're not, you know what I'm saying, preoccupied with righteousness and justice, you know? And again, I know to some of my Reformed brothers and sisters, that sounds like, you know, a concern, but it is biblical to be preoccupied with these things, and we can't allow the world to kind of like take that from the church.
No.
How about
know what I mean?
Ephesians 2? Ephesians 2, 8-10. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. How about that? We are not saved by good works, but the result of God working in us is going to produce good works.
Right.
And we're going to walk in these good works.
Yes.
So God's good work that is being done in us is going to produce fruit. And what happens whenever you plant a certain fruit seed, you
Yeah.
get the fruit
Right.
from that tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see the production coming from that.
That's good.
Preach.
I think our theology, I'm thankful that we focus on our theology, because that really is, to me, it's a guard for us to be able to handle some of the issues we have in our neighborhoods properly.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, like, our theology to me, it's the glue that keeps our good works together.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And people don't understand that. Like, yes, I'm a 5-pointer. I believe in the doctrines of grace, you know, and I argue, you know, with anybody on it. But at the same time, like, my doctrine compels me to live it out in my neighborhood,
Yes.
to be compassionate, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To meet the needs of people. That's not a compromising of my
No.
theology. It's an outworking of it.
Yes.
Right?
We've got
So.
to understand it is a perennial problem with the people of God to worship, to give sacrifices. In other words, to do all of the things that you do and worship to God, and let the second commandment just go. That the Pharisees, you know, if you bring your gift to us and make it a part of what it takes to make the temple work, to make the church work, then you don't have to support your mom and dad. Jesus said you have canceled the word of God with the commandments of men. It is a problem. It is a problem, and that's part of that prophetic voice, right? Hey guys,
Yeah.
Kurt says, Kurt Kennedy, Mr. Kurt Kennedy, Pastor Kurt Kennedy, podcaster, rapper, my guy, he says, come on now, don't
I can
move
read it.
from
I
me.
have
we,
it here.
We need to also call out the reality that much of what we're seeing as biblical versus social justice is really conservative justice versus liberal justice.
well,
Right.
I would agree with that. A lot of these, and I guess that kind of brings us to the part where I started asking, is a lot of this stuff just semantics? Is it worth fighting over all these terms and words that we fight over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's definitions that are not clear.
That's it.
When I'm sitting in front of a white gathering in my denomination and talk about systemic racism is real, their eyes go, cross over. Because the only thing they know about systemic racism is what they're hearing out in the street, and on social media and on Fox News. And I have to be able to explain what they mean by social justice. I mean, by systemic racism.
Right.
And what Scripture would be pointing to as systemic racism. See? And so, yeah, it's important for us to do that. It's wearying.
Yeah.
It's wearying because the world continues to throw, dump stuff in the stew. That we have to constantly be, but hey, that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. And, yeah.
I think one way that we can go forward with these conversations is it's going to definitely start with each one of us. What are we doing? What are we specifically doing to bring change, to impact? If a person feels like they're too much of a victim to see any victory in their life, how are we, the stronger brothers, going to help our weaker brother? If our weaker brother feels like they can't do anything because systemic racism is keeping them down, and we don't believe that, let's just say we believe that there's nothing holding us back, we can just go out and do these things, how are we helping them? Because people will argue all day. But what are we going to do? If we believe that there's too many young mothers, not even just young, but too many mothers that are getting abortions out here, what are we going to do to stop the abortions from happening?
Yeah.
Are we going to bring in that family into our home? These are the challenges we got to ask ourselves. Are we willing to walk alongside that family and even if it costs us $300 or $400 a month to help support them? Are we going to do that as individual church members? Are we going to take more out of our pockets and give to the church so that the church can be the church? Are we going to sacrifice? Hold on.
Watch out.
Are we going to sacrifice having family vacations? Are we going to sacrifice not going to the beach this year because we can use that money doing something different?
Or take somebody to the beach with us.
Or take somebody to the beach with us.
There you go. That's pretty cool. I like that.
That's fun. Yeah, me and my wife actually we've been doing that for the last couple of years, but we didn't even we just thought of that as that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But can we make that? How about we normalize that? How about we normalize extended family vacations where you don't just bring your family, bring an extension to your family?
It was sad is when you were starting, I was thinking it's sad that it's a stretch for the church to think like that. Just to think of bringing the family in, being personally involved, being uncomfortable because of it.
I think
that's like unheard of in a lot of church culture. You know what I mean? Because they go to church and then they leave. We attended a church one time. Our church did. We were the last ones to leave. This was a packed church, and it looked like everybody just scattered right after service, and we stayed there the whole time. There is no follow up. There's almost like this privatized Christianity. It's just what I do here. I don't do that, over here. I don't bring people home from my church, or if I do, it's I gotta pencil them into my schedule. There's no open door policies. You know what I'm saying? There's no interruptions. There's no Book of Acts church.
Right.
Now I realize there's some of y'all out there that might not be open door people. Maybe you have to schedule people. I know.
Yeah, I'm not beefing with.
Yeah,
that,
I know you're not. But what I'm getting at is, okay, if you're a scheduler, then that's what you do.
Schedule them in.
Start scheduling people in.
Right.
You know,
Pull out your calendar.
yeah, that's how you roll. That's how you roll. But the key here, and I think that's the point, to roll.
Yeah. All right.
Now, yeah, you know, there's all sorts of issues related to doing these things and how's that going to impact your kids and blah, blah, blah. I can tell you, frankly, I can tell you for a fact that one of the reasons why my youngest son was able to deal with homeless people in Philadelphia when he was in college, because we dealt with homeless people as a family before. So I can tell you it's going to impact your kids positively. No, you can't sacrifice everything for whatever.
Right.
You know, God will show you how to have radical family living that's responsible. Radical family living and responsible family living are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, that's good.
In the gospel.
Michael Landrum said there's always an open door policy with the church. Either your front door is open to your brothers and sisters, or the back door of the church is open for them to leave.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, as a church, yes, it should be open door. I get it.
Right.
You're absolutely.
Oh, man.
I remember the guy came in the Crown and Joy in Richmond, and he was disrupting the service. And instead of, we didn't want to throw him out right away, because I said to the congregation in the middle of the message, we've been told that we're not sent to the well, but to the sick. And everybody got it. So we were rolling with this guy to see what he's going to do. And eventually, he went out the door. But the point is, he even knew he could have stayed. If he had sat down and quit talking out loud, he could have stayed.
Lord help me.
Lydia brought Lydia.
I would have been like, dude, no, but go ahead.
Lydia brought something up earlier when we were talking about helping women to keep their babies and walking alongside them. She said, and then also loving them even if she chooses, loving her even if she chooses to go forward with the abortion.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That gets into, are they a member? Because if they're a member, then it's different. It's like church discipline is in order. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. If she's a member of the church, then I mean,
if she's an outsider, the scriptures say we're not to judge them, right?
Right.
So I think you can treat an outsider differently, but someone who's a professing believer who attends the church, that has a different approach to it, I think.
Right. Abortion in the church for a church member is that's a whole nother subject than someone who is not part of the church that has an abortion.
But I hear what she's saying.
Yeah.
You know, our hearts are always to be redemptive, to be available and accessible to people.
Yes.
So I feel that. We definitely want to do that.
Absolutely.
But one of the other challenges is also to begin to get with these young men and say, quit going out here impregnating these girls and walking off.
Yeah.
Yes. And if that's happening with the church members,
Hey, dude, we getting in your face.
Right. Right.
yes. Yes. So that's how we deal with justice in the church.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
We're gonna be a little bit tougher with you in the church than if you're outside of the church.
I mean, if we're involved,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to care. And sometimes caring means discipline. It means rebuke. It means, you know, being uncomfortable. You know, but
Always for your good.
felt it. Yeah.
Remember, Jesus looked one of his inner circle in the face and called him the devil.
That's right. Straight up. That's deep too. When that's coming from Christ, it's like, yo, that's, you know what I'm saying? That's real.
Yo, Peter got it the
He
worst,
got
man.
tore up, bro.
But he was always doing too much, man.
Well, that's the thing. That's why he got rebuked.
Yeah, Peter was always doing the
He
most.
got tore up from the floor up.
Peter like, oh, Peter, it's okay. I know how you. No, you shoot off him. No, and did it with a straight face too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give me justice or give me death. I mean, I don't even know how many topics we got into tonight, but I feel like this was a great introduction The reason why I say this is because we've never dealt with social justice in the basement.
Yeah.
We have not. We've dealt with the Botham Jean situation. We did talk about that. We talked about the George Floyd situation last year. We've talked about Black Lives Matter. We talked about things like this. But to actually talk about what is justice and what does that look like in the church, outside of the church, and do we need to fight over these things? And how about this? As we're finishing up, what about when you don't stand on the same side as someone? How do we deal with that in the church?
Yeah. We really have to, at this point where so much of this isn't worked out, we are going to have to approach each other graciously.
It's starting to show. The differences are starting to show.
Yeah. And there may be, in the process of the nuancing that's going to have to go on, there's going to be some people that are going to get rebuked eventually. Eventually it's going to be clear that they're going down a wrong path. And we got to, pull them. I mean, that's what happens when you're just like, there was a time when some people's Christology was going the wrong way. And they had to pull them in. It's going to happen.
Yeah, Voddie's book, Fault Lines, the whole idea is that these fault lines exist and that a big earthquake is coming. And he's thinking that there's going to be a big split in in American evangelicalism. Like, it's going to happen. This whole thing that's happening, it's going to divide. But I don't think he's saying it's a bad thing either. It's almost like it could be a good thing because, again, it could expose, the fakes from the real, in the church. That might mean something different to Voddie than other people.
I was going to say, what
yeah,
do you
really.
mean by that?
I know that's what some people are afraid of.
Right.
That's what
right,
he's getting
right.
at.
But I think he's somewhat correct. I think I don't know if the beef and everything that's happening is sustainable. But I think what it's gonna do, I think we'll be unified. I think the church will come together and be one body somehow, some way. That was the prayer that Jesus prayed in John 17.
Amen.
And that's his heart. That's what he's concerned with. I think it's going to happen. If anything, again, there's some things that Voddie says in his book that I kind of have to chew on, but I would say that regardless, I think the Lord is going to preserve his church through it all.
Yeah.
And
you know what? If discipleship is happening, all of these things that we talked tonight, it gets discussed.
Yeah.
There's no way you can disciple someone without these things coming up. Because Lydia brings up, not all churches are cut that way. Too many covering up the sin of their own because they don't want mud on their face. This is exactly why discipleship and accountability is so, so, so important. Absolutely.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shout out to y'all in the comment section. Sister Lynette says, we do post-abortion care with Love Life. Yeah. So if you have an abortion, there's still ways that we can care for you and walk alongside you.
Yeah.
And preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are not too great of a sinner, to not be saved by the same message, just have the same faith as us.
Yes, Lord.
Yep.
Open door policies, opening up your schedule. I'm looking at some of the comments right here.
Yeah, we're just going through the comment section
cool.
right now. So,
and those of you that are watching right now, just so y'all know, we do have Patreon. So, if you want to support us, you can go to Patreon, and I don't know if you have the link, Los, but you can throw that in there.
Patreon.com/thebasement717.
And we have the $3 tier where you can be part of the posts and the messages and behind the scenes videos that we've been doing. We give like mini episodes out there for you, those of you that are supporting us. We just made another one tonight. Now, anyone that is watching this right now, unless you're a Patreon, you won't see these mini episodes. And we get into some good topics. And it sometimes is by request. So who knows what the next one will be.
You also get discounts for Wrath and Grace conferences. Are you going to get into that?
Yep. So the $3 one is behind the scenes, and being part of those videos and the conference call, the $5 tier, you get to call in live. So if one of our patrons wanted to call in live tonight, they could have called in live onto the show. We'll give you the number. You can call in, ask us questions, comment, whatever. You also get the same benefits as the $3. Now you go to the $10 tier. That's where you can choose the topic. You can call in live. You can be part of the behind the scenes videos, the conference calls. Now the $20 tier, you get merchandise discounts, and we're working on that, getting our merch out there. You can also be a co-creator for the episode. We'll have you come in and just sit right next to us, right where Pastor Stan is sitting, and be part of the episode. Topic selection, you get to call in live, all of these things. So there's so many benefits to being a supporter of the basement. So go ahead and check us out. Again, $3, $5, $10, and $20 tier. Shout out to our patrons.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're good.
So yeah, I think we're good. Those of you that are out there tonight, shout out to y'all. Love to hear y'all in the comment section. We love to see all of the input that you bring to the table. And thank you again, Pastor Stan, for being with us tonight.
It was a pleasure.
Good to have you, bro.
Thank you.
Always good to have you.
First time that we had him in the basement.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We've been
Abner
waiting.
also in Florida said if they can get with y'all before you leave somehow, some way.
Oh, okay.
Just ask. I can get. I don't know if you
I
have
think I might have their number.
Okay, I'll double check with you.
Okay,
Put
all
that
right.
in the comment section earlier. So.
Okay. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Every week we go on at 9 o'clock. Sometimes Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. That's why you have to be a part of the group page to find out what's going on. Facebook.com/groups/the basement. And so we do have a website that's actually being rebuilt, wrathandgrace.com. As soon as we have it up, we're going to have the conferences we did. And also some video on teaching and all sorts of topics that will be included. And we're working on actually shipping out our T-shirts at a very timely manner. And so the setup is going to be pretty dope. So make sure when the website is up, that you actually get some T-shirts, mugs, whatever it is that we have on the website. Make sure you share and like the video. Facebook.com/wrathandgrace. Make sure you share and like the video. Let people know what's going on here. That'd be great. All right, y'all. Well, grace and peace.
Hold up.
Yes?
I didn't know if you had any books that you brought that you wanted to share.
Yeah.
One book that I brought that I do want to share. I don't know if this is
okay.
on the camera. It's called The Quest
Right that one.
for Cosmic Justice. It's written by a public intellectual, Thomas Sowell. A lot of people don't exactly agree with him, but I can tell you that this book, even the first chapter, is worth the price of the book. So I do recommend it.
Definitely going to have to check that one out.
Cool.
God bless y'all.
All right.
Another great time in the basement. Episode 87. Give me justice or give me death.
No doubt. All right, y'all. Grace and peace.
God bless.
God bless.